Hey pilots, this morning I decided while doing a cleanup after a amazing maiden flight of the new HSD Arctic, I call it the Aggressor paint scheme, up there in Alaska, F-16. This is the cousin of the 105mm EDF version. This one's running a 6 kg KingTech Turbine. But we had such a great time flying this airplane last night. I'm doing some cleanup this morning, and I decided I was going to do a little video and go over a few of the details of this airplane, top and bottom, and then do a startup sequence, and then I'll attach the maiden flights to it at the end of this video. I've been told by some friends that I should maybe do a little more of this, getting into the detail and some flight reviews. So if you guys feel the same way, maybe leave some comments down below and let me know what you think. I just love doing this, and I'm just trying to better myself as a pilot, and like the rest of you guys and gals, and just enjoy and keep learning with this stuff. This is an amazing airplane. It's worthy of a whole video all by itself. I'm going to do kind of a comparison with the EDF version because I have both. I bought that one first. It's one of the larger foam EDFs on the market. HSD is kind of taking this foam stuff to a whole new level. This plane I purchased this last November 15 from China, a company in China. I think it was called Find Hobby, as an ARF, and then I purchased the KingTech from Dirk and Barry at Pacific RC Jets, and the KingTech dealer here in the States. Dirk and Barry are amazing at helping you out on this stuff if you're new to turbines, kerosene jets, and you want to get into this. But I'll just I'll get into the details here, and then I'll pause this, flip it over, and show you the topside. But the level of detail is amazing. You can just take a look at the servos are high quality, high voltage, titanium gear, aluminum cased, aluminum horns everywhere. We got ball links on virtually all surfaces. They're super smooth, nice. There's a light package on this airplane as well that's pretty exotic. I just wanted to give you a close-up detail of this stuff, and because it's really impressive for a foam model. It's probably the most impressive foam airplane on the market, arguably. The landing gear, if any of you guys are interested and have grabbed this video off YouTube, you're probably already familiar with this airplane. And the landing gear is incredible. Wheel brakes, suspension is all dampened. We found that a serious plus yesterday because we fly off grass. We cut it all the time. We're on a 2,000-foot runway, private runway, and we mow a little area for our flying. And this dampened, let's see if I can do it here and hold on at the same time. The dampening in the suspension is really advantageous to rougher fields. Most pilots are probably going to fly this off cement. We don't have that luxury, but we do have a very beautiful place to fly, so this is the perfect airplane to do that, as you'll see in the flight videos. The foam quality is, second to none. Free Wing and HSD, in my opinion, are the top shelf. FMS is right there. They're starting to get seriously into jets, as some of you may know. We're going to look down the intake here. Believe it or not, the turbine doesn't get most of its air through this intake. If you can look in there, you'll see some wires. The bottom of the distribution board is would be on the the upward side, obviously, if we're rolled over. So air does get through there, but believe me, it's got a lot of things to go through, and it ultimately is in the bottom of this cavity, and you can see some holes, the retracts. The turbine is sucking air through this hole, and the majority of it through the vents in the top of the cowl, which I'll show you here in a minute. But anything else on the bottom side? Just, the hinges are amazing. It's got blade-style real hinges on all the surfaces. Obviously a full flying tail for the elevators. It's just top shelf stuff, and this is pretty much bone stock right from HSD as an ARF. And yeah, I just purchased the KingTech. So I'll roll this thing over and we'll do the topside. Okay guys, we got the plane rolled over here. The HSD 6K Turbine Arctic camo aggressor scheme. Topside here. I am going to go over a few things real quickly, and then we'll pull the two cowls, or the bonnet and the cowl, and look at the trick stuff and kind of how I laid things out. But first I wanted to just kind of go over how easy this airplane is to build. It's actually kind of ridiculous, which is awesome. HSD has done their homework on this stuff. There's a few little tidbits I'll point out to you that either were of concern or I changed. But other than that, you see the wings bolt on with two screws. They are threaded into metal inserts. So basically you have 4 screws for the wings, you have 4 screws for the tail, for the upright rudder, basically 2 on each side. And then the elevators bolt onto a shaft with like a collar and a set screw. Super easy, and then you're just basically putting your horns on that, and the airplane is built, with the exception of you're sliding the nose on, just like the 105mm version, and there's a couple of bolts or screws that fasten it. It literally slides into position like this, and bolt it down with 2 bolts, and it's solid, and you're good. Unlike the EDF version, the rear cowling is much bigger to accommodate the giant area you need to place and work on the turbine. And the cowling is, I think it's virtually the same size, but you'll see it's laid out a lot differently. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we can go ahead and open it up. Is there any other things other than the placement of the turbine and a few tips that Kirk let me know about when I put this, or I'm sorry, Dirk let me know about when I put this thing together? It's pretty straightforward. Well, let me see if I can get the cowl off here, one-handed. That's gonna work. And also this guy. One of the first things I will mention is that you can see I added a little piece of carbon fiber plate here to this hole and re-drilled it, because the hole was actually drilled a little too high, so the cowling didn't sit flush with the fuselage. So in doing so, it actually made the whole thing fit tighter and nice and flush. So that's one thing I had to do to this particular airplane. I don't know if they're all that way. You know, you'll find out if you buy one. They put kind of an S-glass, fiberglass on the inside of this cowling for heat. It works really, really well. We only noticed a little bit of bubbling on the foam right here from heat, which I will probably cover with more protective glass somehow. But other than that, it sounds like they did a lot of test flying with this airplane over there in China and got it right. There's kind of an aluminum tape along the edges here. The plane, since the spar can't go all the way through it, has this unique machined aluminum U-bracket where the carbon spars bolt onto, they're pinched, then go into the wing. Kind of unique, seems to work just fine. I will talk about the turbine placement, then head up to the distribution board and all that stuff. One of the things you had to do with the KingTech is mount the engine back a little bit further than HSD originally intended with their Ace turbine. Obviously it's a little bit different dimensions. You can see the cutouts in the plywood here for the other turbine. Dirk was very adamant about me positioning this in the right place in the cone, basically where you got the bell and then it goes down to the actual cone that exits the back of the airplane. You need to be from the edge of the burner can to this particular seam right here. I think it was basically 1/2 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch to get the proper flow through the thing. He knew this better, much better than I did, so I just followed the directions and the thing flies brilliantly. So that's all good. But in order to get it into the right place, I did have to move the turbine back quite a bit. You can see that the adjustment for the bracket is all the way to the edge, and I had to move it back to get it in the right place. But it works awesome. Yeah, so what else can we talk about? The inside of the airplane. Well, I'll do it from this side. Everybody's going to lay theirs out a little differently. There's a strap from HSD, and the UAT seemed to fit perfectly right there. So that's where I put it. Then I bolted the fuel pump right in front of it. Here's the inlet for the fuel. It just all seemed to be fairly natural for me. I wanted the batteries to be able to move them around a little bit for CG if necessary. So the UAT went in what I think is their stock configuration. I put the ECU just back here behind the distribution board. It gave me plenty of room for all the harnesses and everything, and with not too much additional zip tying to get things cleaned up. Basically the distribution board for all the control surfaces and the landing gear are these two guys here. There is no gyro. You could, like there is that comes stock in the EDF version. I didn't fly the plane with a gyro. I personally don't like flying with gyros most of the time. Now that depends on the skill of the pilot, but if something goes wrong, I want to be responsible. I don't want the gyro to be responsible. And in flying with the 105mm, I noticed some serious oscillations in the tail and things that could have been maybe cured with gain issues and things like that. But I just decided to take it out and fly it the real way with no help. So it's got an AR 9020 Spectrum receiver that I velcroed basically, so I can take it on and off quickly and get to things if I need to change things around. Seems to work good, just right on top of the board. And then you have the GSU, or ground station unit. I didn't find a lot of videos that talk about this stuff. That's why I'm kind of going into detail, guys. And I will fire this up and kind of read the screen during the startup procedure, so you kind of know what is happening if you're interested in this airplane, and or the KingTech K60 turbine. But yeah, you can see how I laid mine out. You can fly the airplane with this unit in it, or you can take it out and just plugs in with the typical JR connector down into the ECU. I fly it with, I just stuck a little Velcro on the back and I put it inside the canopy and pop the canopy on and rock and roll. And you have the option, there's two satellite receivers in here, obviously with an AR 920, so I put one of them here and I put one of them back up underneath the cowl. So it's, maybe you can see it in there. I laid it flat on one of the plywood boards. Anyway, it's tricky to get in there, it's a little dark. But that's how I laid mine out. It seems to have worked out very, very well. I can get to everything. The fuel filter I put in line here, and then you've got your petcock or your shutoff valve right before the engine. And these are quick disconnects both on this end and the engine side, and actually also on the other side. So if you need to pop it apart quickly, it's really easy to do. The thing uses a lot of fuel, guys. I was hoping I would be able to get a 10-minute flight out of it, but with this tank, that's never going to happen. At least unless I like to fly a little hot. But it still doesn't seem like you could get much more than maybe 6 minutes if you were taking it easy. That might be different on a cement runway, a little easier to lift off than we have. We've got to use a lot of horsepower to get the thing off the ground. But it sure does it easily. In any case, I can't think of much else to let you guys know about, so I'm going to button this thing back up, and we will get into the flights and probably a little overall at the end of this. But I hope this helps you guys out if you're interested in this. Like I said, as soon as I'm done with this video, I will do a startup procedure so that hopefully that explains a little more, because when I was searching and researching this airplane about a year ago, there was rumor that all this was going to happen. it was very difficult to find videos that were in English, and there was very few really explaining the details of how it's laid out and what actually happens with your GSU and what it's telling you and all that stuff. But it's pretty simple. Once you get a little overwhelmed at first, but it's really simple, and the thing runs like a Swiss watch. It's amazing. All right, guys. See you in a bit.